Hello everyone, I'm Nagashri. Welcome to my civil engineering YouTube channel. If this is your first time, subscribe to it and hit the bell icon to get notified when I post my new videos. Today I'll be discussing regarding arches, components of arches, arch action, and types of arches. So coming on to the first concept of this lecture series, that is arches. So what is an arch? Arches are the upward convex shaped structure which are comparatively stronger than that of the beams, and they are supported at the ends in order to resist the horizontal and vertical displacements. So here, as in case of arches, it is an upward convex shaped structure which is very much stronger than that of the beams, and they are supported at the end supports which are used to resist the horizontal and vertical displacements. So arches are more economic. It is considered to be more economic for the longer spans compared to the beam. So as in case of bridges, flyovers and all, so we prefer to give arches than that of the continuous beam. Why? Because arches are very economic and for the longer span than compared to beam. So these are some of the reasons why. Because the bending moment, as in case of beam, it always varies with the square of the span. So if I just take an example of a simply supported beam, which is subjected to the UDL, that is uniformly distributed load throughout the entire span, the maximum bending moment will be equal to WL square by 8, right? So that is nothing but the bending moment will always vary with the square of the span. So the compared to the bending moment, as in case of the arches, the moment with the beam will be more. So it is first thing is that the moment is more, as in case of beams, the withstanding capacity will be less. Hence arches are preferably, comparatively, it is preferred for the longer span. So next point is that, as in case of arches, the total moment is obtained by the moment below the load deducted by the horizontal thrust action at the same span. So if I want to calculate the total moment, so on the which is subjected to the external load, so it is nothing but the moment, and then it is deducted by the horizontal action of the span. Means comparatively, the bending moment, total bending moment for the arches is always resisted by some amount of the thrust action in the horizontal direction, so that the stiffness or the resisting capacity towards the bending moment is always high in case of the arches. Hence arches are more preferred for the longer span compared to that of the beam. So coming on to the next concept, that are components of the arch structure. So here I have just taken an arch. Here you can just see the components of an arch. So A and B represents the support, or it is also called as abutments. Abutments is nothing but these are the structures which are at the edges of the arches on which the arch rests. So abutments. So here, as in case of the figure is concerned, A and B are the two supports. Supports are also called as abutments. So these are the structures on which the arches rest, and these are also termed as supports, and they are used to resist the lateral loads due to the arch action. So which are used to resist the lateral loads due to the arch action. The function of the abutments is used to resist the lateral loads due to the arch action. So A and B are the two supports, or it is also called as abutments. So next is C. C is the crown of the arch. What is a crown? Crown is nothing but it is a point on the arch with the highest elevation. It is a point on the arch with highest elevation is called as abutment from the from the support. So to that of this to that of the crown, the perpendicular distance measured will be much more high, so it is at the highest elevation. So it is also having the function that it takes up the external load and on it and convert the load into lateral force or the thrust, and then it transmits to the supports, finally to the top of the ground. So crown is the point on the arch with the highest elevation. The main function of the crown is that it takes up the external load coming on it in the downward direction, and then it converts into the lateral load and transfers that into that to that of the supports, and finally the supports transmits to that of the ground. Okay, so the next part of the arch is called as springings. So springing is nothing but it is a connecting junction or connection between the arch rib and the abutment. Arch rib is nothing but the uh, curved nature of the arch. Curved shape of the arch is called as arch rib. So connecting junction between the arch rib and the abutment is called as springing. So the next is the span of the arch. What is the span of the arch? Span of the arch is clear horizontal distance between the two supports. Clear horizontal distance is nothing but the inner to inner distance between the supports is called as span of the arch. Clear span. So here in general, as in case of tied arches carrying the highway, the span will be in the range of 75 meters to 250 meters, but as in case of railways, the span would be at the range of 50 to 200 meters. So span is a clear horizontal distance between the two supports of an arch, and it is as in case of tied arches, it is 75 to 250 meters, but as in case of railways, the span will be of 50 to 200 meters. So the next part of the arch is rise of the arch, or it is also called as riser. So what is a riser? Riser is nothing but the perpendicular distance between the line of action of the support to the crown point of the arch. That is nothing but the distance between the horizontal line of the between the support to that of the crown. So height of the raise, as in case of parabolic arch subjected to the entire UDL, is generally opted as one third of the span. For example, if they give the problem if they give a numerical stating that without any riser, so generally if the parabolic arches, when it is subjected to UDL, generally the riser will be opted as one third of the span. So if the arch is having unsymmetrical loading, then the height of the rise in case of parabolic arch is generally taken as 1/5, 1/5 to 1/6 of the span. So it is taken from ASC as a reference. So I repeat it once again, the components of the arches. So basically the A and B are the two supports, or it is also called as abutments. Abutments are the one on which the arch rests, and these are also called as supports, which are used to resist the lateral load due to the arch action. So next comes the next part is C. So C is nothing but the crown. Crown is the point where on the arch with the highest elevation. It is the having the function that it takes up the external load, it converts the load into the lateral force, and then it transfers the force to that of the supports, and finally supports to that of the ground. Then springing is the connecting junction between the arch rib and that of the abutments. So springing acts as a stiffener. So next comes span of the arch. The distance, the horizontal clear distance between the two supports is called as span of the arch. Clear distance is nothing but the inner to inner distance, horizontal distance. So generally the span of the arches, as in case of tied arches, carrying the highway, will be at the range of 75 to 250 meters, but as in case of railways, the span would be of 50 to 200 meters. So next comes rise of the arch. So perpendicular, what is the rise of the arch? It is nothing but the perpendicular distance between the horizontal line of action to that of the crown of the arch. So generally the height or the height of the rise, as in case of parabolic arch, which takes up the UDL throughout the span, is taken as 1/3 of the span. And if it is carrying the unsymmetrical loading, then it is taken as 1/5 to 1/6 of the span. The reference for this is Lipson and Heck of AC 1980. So next concept of this is arch action. So what is arch action? So I have just considered here a arch which is subjected to loading. It is subjected to load of W per meter throughout the entire span. So H is the height of the riser, and A and B are the two supports. So it is a hinged support. So it is having two reaction, and that is, one is a horizontal and one is a vertical reaction. So the external load applied on the arch will be always resolved into two components. The external load, so W is the external load as in case of this figure is concerned. So here the external load applied will be resolved always into two components. First one is the axial compressive stress, and second one is the thrust force at the base instead of bending moments. So here, instead of bending moments, always the bending moments subjected to there will not be any bending moments here, but instead it will be converted as a thrust. So next is the important feature of the arch is that, so in the second sketch you can just observe here. So the arrow mark shows the horizontal reaction here, as in case of the arches at the supports, which is a very important, it plays a very important role in resisting the external load applied on it and preventing the arches from collapsing. So this force will withstand the arches from collapsing, so that it holds tightly. As in case of this, it prevents from collapsing. So it increase as the height of the arches decreases, the height of the riser decreases, then the horizontal reaction increases. So the horizontal reaction increases at the supports, so that the arches will be resisting with the collapse state. Hence the serviceability of the arch also increases. So I repeat it. I have just considered a simply supported arch I have considered a two hinged arch supported with the hinges, with H as a height of the riser, and W per meter is a UDL throughout the span. The external force applied always will be resolved into two components. So it is an axial compressive stress, and then the thrust instead of bending moments. So always it will be replaced as a thrust at the base, that is nothing but in the horizontal direction. So in the second sketch I have shown that the horizontal reaction will be a preventive force for the collapsing nature of the arch. So as soon as the arch is subjected to any type of loading, then it starts to move in that direction. So this is the resisting force which prevents the arches from collapsing. So that is called as the horizontal thrust. So here it prevents the arches from collapsing, and it is inversely proportional to the height of the archer or the height of the riser. So as the height of the riser increases, the horizontal reaction decreases. As height decreases, the horizontal reaction increases, so that it prevents from collapsing of the arch and increases the serviceability of the arch towards the applied load. So this is the arch action. Coming on to the next type, the next concept, that is types of the arches. So basically there are three types of the arches. So first one is a two-hinged arch. So here you can just observe that in case of two-hinge arch, the arches is only subjected to the supports which are of hinged supports. With only two hinges it is supported, and it is having the redundancy of degree equal to 1. Why? Because at each hinge you will be having two reaction. So one is a horizontal reaction and one is a vertical reaction, two at each hinge. So totally there are two hinges, so there are four unknown support reactions. So only three equilibrium conditions are there. So 4 minus 3 will be equal to 1. 1 will be the degree of redundancy. So here it is easy to construct. Always the two hinge arches are easier to construct, as the normal thrust causes the rib to shorten. So as in case of two hinge arches, the normal thrust, that is the horizontal reaction, it causes the arch rib to shorten. So this is the about the two hinge arches. And always it develops the stresses are due to sinking. The two hinge arches will always develop some additional stress due to sinking of the support. The next important type of the arch is that three hinge arch. So here you can just observe the pictorial representation of the three hinge arches. So it generally consists of three hinges, so one at the crown and two at the supports. So here, as in case of three hinge arches, so it is a statically determinate arch. So here you can, how it is determined means, determinate means, so here you can just observe that the internal hinge will be having one reaction. So horizontal reaction of the two hinges will be cancelled each other, the action will be cancelled each other. So only remaining is the vertical reaction. So the total support reaction will be two vertical reaction plus one at the hinge. So there are three. So three which will be resisted by the contracted by the three equilibrium conditions. Hence it is a statically determinate. So it can be analyzed easily, and but it is difficult to construct. Since it is a statically determinate, there is no stresses due to the sinking of the support. So the next comes with the fixed arch. Fixed arch, it is a pictorial representation. So here the both the ends of the supports are fixed. So both the ends are fixed, and at each end you will be having three unknown reactions. So two supports, three unknown reaction, so there will be six totally. So only three equilibrium conditions are there, therefore the degree of redundancy is equal to 3. It creates the additional stresses on the arches, and then it can be analyzed by using the strain energy method, least energy method, column energy method, etc. So thank you.